Hi, this is Dave at AFX Search, licensed investigators in Palm Beach, Florida. Here's the quick 5 and 5 message that we talked about in the blog post. First, 5 reasons why an employee will commit financial fraud or embezzlement, and 5 ways to prevent it. First of all, the most common reason that an employee crosses that line of trust and does something wrong that causes harm to the company is some type of financial circumstances. It may be financial distress, a loss, some type of increased expense. A lot of times it comes from a life event, such as a divorce, a foreclosure, a medical event. Sometimes it's a spouse who loses a job or loses income. It may be the employee themselves whose income drops due to less sales. Maybe their job function changes. Number 2, an underappreciated and sometimes slighted employee will occasionally use that event as a justification to steal. And it may not be rational, may not be reasonable, but they may feel like they deserve a raise, they deserve more appreciation, or that the way the company is running isn't matching their needs, and they'll use that as an excuse to start a scheme to steal your money as a business owner. Number 3 is what we call creeping liberties. For example, an employee might decide one day, you know what, I'm going to steal a pen. And they take the pen, and the next day they steal a pad of paper. And then it gradually increases over time. They may have an employee charge card for expenses, and little things creep on there, and they learn that each one of these is not reviewed, may not be audited or prohibited, and it just goes on to bigger and better things. Number 4 is a culture of lax appearance. If the employee sees that the company isn't really running a tight ship, isn't really keeping a good, secure environment, not just for theft or fraud, but the way they deal with clients, the way they deal with customers, even the way that the appearance of the office is. If there's trash left all over the place and nobody cares about the way the place looks, that may lead to a culture of, well, let me just take a chance at getting away with something because nobody's paying attention to anything. Number 5, and the last one, is allowing a bad person in the company to begin with. And that may seem like it should have been the first one, but it's so rare and shouldn't happen anyways that we'll leave it as the last one. This happens, it should be prevented at hiring. It should be prevented again at onboarding, and then also regular review, so that we bring somebody on. Obviously, you're going to do a good background check, reference check. When you're onboarding the person, have another conversation with them to understand, what their responsibilities and expectations are. Regular reviews of that person over time shows what they should be doing and making sure that they match what they presented at the time of onboarding. Look, it should not be a long time for a bad person to be in your organization. It happens. Somebody might slip through the cracks on hiring or onboarding, but it should be caught pretty quick. Second part, number 5, or the 5 top ways to prevent fraud in the company. First of all, you have to have controls. You have to have controls on payments. You have to have controls on who authorizes certain things and who has access to financial documents, financial records, checks, or invoices. That has to be a respectful relationship with the employee. You don't want to make it seem like there's no trust, but good corporate internal security requires these types of controls. And an employee who understands the importance of the company and respects the company as its provider will appreciate the company having appropriate, respectful controls. Number 2, there should be hidden controls that nobody knows about. If, let's say, for example, all checks over $100 require 2 signatures, maybe there's another control that nobody knows about, that checks that are written between $100 and $300, even with 2 signatures, are all reviewed. Nobody may know that, and that might be a way to catch fraud. Number 3, spot checking transfers and payments and invoices. You're going to pull random invoices. Maybe you pull them by anything that ends with a 5 on the invoice number. Maybe you pull every 10th check. You can't look at them all, but if you spot check some, at some point these red flags and the frauds will be discovered, because there's a luck of the draw. They're going to be on the one you spot check. Number 4, look at your ROI or profit margin in different categories. If you see that a profit margin on a certain product is dropping, it may be that there's a vendor fraud with that product. If you see that the return on investment for advertising is dropping, it may be that there's some fraudulent expenses being put in that ad column. So look at your numbers, know your metrics and your benchmarks, and you'll catch fraud that way. Last one, number 5, third-party audits. this is an opportunity not only for fraud but prevention, but to catch ways to make more money. If you look at your third-party vendors, suppliers, service providers, and you audit them, even go visit their locations, talk to their CEO, talk to their accountant, you may find if there's some type of improper relationship with that vendor and your company, you're going to pick that up just in body language in that conversation, like, well, why are you here talking to me? Number two, you may also find that there's some efficiency improvements that company can make, especially with how they deal with you. If they're manufacturing widgets for you and your cost of widgets is $1 each, if you find a way as an experienced expert business owner that they might be able to adjust their process to make your widgets a little bit less expensive or provide the service to you in a way that cuts corners that you can live with, you might be able to lower their expenses on your account and pass the savings along to you, or share those savings between you and the vendor. It builds that relationship up. So there's 5 ways to prevent fraud, 5 ways that fraud starts from an employee. Hopefully that helps in preventing it in the first place, so you don't have to call us after the fact to investigate it and find out where the money went.